The election was not stolen, so she had to go. You know, you can't have Republicans going around saying Biden won the election. People might get the right idea. Liz Cheney was one of very few Republicans who voted to impeach Trump for his role in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. She has been outspoken in her criticism, and so House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy initiated a vote to have her removed. I'm confused. I thought these guys hated cancel culture. Aren't they the ones that... The worst part is, you know... Of course, Donald Trump's...
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I used to I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people. So whether it's her, whether it's Dick, I was surprised a little bit with Dick Cheney. I didn't know him at all. I only had essentially the 1 or 2 phone calls, and it was only a call saying, thank you very much for doing that for Scooter Libby. That was nice. And Scooter Libby, by the way, was...
Liz Cheney is a bitter, horrible human being. I watched her yesterday and realized how bad she is for the Republican Party. She has no personality or anything good having to do with politics or our country. Think he has these pre-written and just fills in the blanks like Mad Libs? Then another statement. The Republicans in the House have a great opportunity today to rid themselves of a poor leader, a major Democrat talking point, a warmonger, and a person with absolutely no personality or heart. As a representative of the great state of Wyoming, Liz Cheney is bad for our country and bad for herself. Can you be bad for yourself? Because what other option is there? And why are the Republicans so afraid of Donald Trump? They're the ones giving him power by pulling stunts like this. But Liz Cheney isn't backing down. She said today she'll do everything she can to ensure that the former president never again gets anywhere near the Oval Office. You know, she's used to this. Her dad was a dick, too. This tells you all you need to know about the Republican Party right now. Not only are they trying to gloss over the fact that Trump incited the riot on the Capitol, quite clearly.
Donald Trump, who began his campaign saying, I am your vengeance, shows at the end exactly what I am your vengeance means. And the Drudge Report, Trump calls for Cheney execution. Yeah. And he says that she should have 9 guns trained at her face. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her. Firing squad, obviously. And that's where we end. And, you know, Mika, it's... Well, it's more direct than if she had guns pointed at her. He actually says, let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her. 9 barrels shooting at her. This is his final pitch going into the final weekend of one of the most important campaigns. And a campaign that starts with I am your retribution ends with Liz Cheney needs to be in a firing squad with 9 barrels shooting at her. Let's take a look at the bite right now.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I used to I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people. So whether it's her, whether it's Dick, I was surprised a little bit with Dick Cheney. I didn't know him at all. I only had essentially the 1 or 2 phone calls, and it was only a call saying, thank you very much for doing that for Scooter Libby. That was nice. And Scooter Libby, by the way, was...
9 barrels shooting at her face. This is, again, I want the Wall Street Journal editorial page to look at this. Because, you know, we've been spending a lot of time, rightly, about the Washington Post bending to the will of Donald Trump, and the Los Angeles Times bending to the will of Donald Trump and actually banning, keep that up, actually banning, keep that up, please.
You will.
Actually banning editorials where their editorial team calls for Harris's selection. But let's go back to the Wall Street Journal, who I have noted, and I read to you every day, whether you want to hear it or not, because for most of the time, they have actually called out Donald Trump's excesses. But as we go to the final weeks of the campaign, Donald Trump goes on Bloomberg. He says the Wall Street Journal always gets it wrong, says he's going to talk to Murdoch. And then what happens? They start making fun of people who are concerned about Donald Trump and his calls for violence. They laugh and they jokingly say, this is, again, after Donald Trump has attacked them and says he's having a meeting with Rupert Murdoch, they write an op-ed an editorial on Monday talking about a fascist meme, as if saying, I'm going to use my military troops and I'm going to use my National Guard to attack my Democratic political opponents, as if that is a meme. And then a few days later, as if they haven't already humiliated themselves enough, Donald Trump keeps talking about violence against his political opponent. And they write another op-ed saying to all the billionaires reading and all of the guys driving around Maseratis who've doubled their fortunes while going to country clubs calling Kamala Harris a socialist, they double down and say there's nothing to see here. Why, the Democrats have been far worse. And then we see this. I wonder, could you put this up again, please? I wonder, Wall Street Journal editorial page, does this look like a meme to you? Or does this look like something that you and the New York Times editorial page and the Washington Post editorial days in better days and every editorial page and every politician on the Republican side, the Democratic side, and independents would all come out speaking against this?
Right.
But you have preemptively capitulated to a man who you believe is going to win next Tuesday when many on his own side are panicking. They're panicking and saying, if we don't get more young men out, we are going to lose this race to Kamala Harris. But, Willie, let's just, again, look at this from 30,000 feet. And this is how Donald Trump ends his campaign, calling for 9 rifles aimed at Liz Cheney's face to shoot at her face. This is how Donald Trump is ending.
Title: When Words Escalate. Trump's return to fire and fury in 2024 seen a lively stage in Glendale, Arizona enter Trump, accompanied by former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. There's nothing quite like the good old Arizona desert to watch a storm brew, especially when it's a political one. Former President Donald Trump, in all his rhetorical splendor, recently delivered a fresh barrage aimed at none other than Liz Cheney, one of his most vocal critics. Radical war, he called her, not stopping there but suggesting she stand with a rifle while guns were trained on her face. Not quite the hallmark sentiment, right? Of course, Cheney, an unabashed Trump opponent, wasn't one to quietly brush off his remarks. This is how dictators destroy free nations, she fired back, adding for good measure that the U.S. should steer clear of a petty, vindictive, cruel, unstable man who wants to be a tyrant. It's tough, isn't it, when the dialogue between two political leaders sounds more like a scene from Game of Thrones than a debate in a democracy. Flashback January 6, 2021. Cheney leads a select committee investigating the Capitol riot. Chen's primary offense: speaking out against Trump's now infamous efforts to question the legitimacy of the 2020 election. She went on to co-chair the January 6th committee investigating the attack on the Capitol. Trump, undeterred, was reportedly less concerned with diplomacy than with her ouster, calling her a stupid person and classic for his lineup of insults very dumb. Trump chalks up Cheney's political instincts to a penchant for war, implying she'd love nothing more than to send 10,000 troops into the mouth of the enemy. But this verbal brawl isn't just a colorful case of political mudslinging, it underscores the deeper tension, the ongoing battle for the GOP's identity. Trump's remarks set the stage for a divide so stark it's practically red-white and at odds with itself. Vice President Kamala Harris enters from stage left. Vice President Kamala Harris isn't one to miss an opportunity to point out what she sees as dangerous ground. Speaking from the ellipse, the very site of Trump's infamous January 6 speech, she made a direct appeal to independents and moderate Republicans. Harris warns Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. It's quite the gambit, appealing to Republicans about the behavior of the man who once was and may again be their party's standard bearer. And what does Trump think of all this bipartisan critique? He wears it as a badge of honor. Ever since his first campaign, he's made it clear that his playbook includes more than a touch of machismo. Mark Esper, his former Secretary of Defense, wrote that Trump once suggested shooting protesters in the leg to quell unrest. It's the sort of idea that once voiced tends to linger, especially when it reemerges in talk of enemies within and hostages when referring to the Capitol riot defendants. Trump's Arizona rally, "I am your retribution." If Trump's campaign rhetoric was intended as a balm to heal old wounds, it might have missed the mark. Instead, he's made retribution the theme of his 2024 run, calling the upcoming election the final battle. He's framed his presidency less as a ticket to prosperity and more as a smackdown against perceived adversaries. No points for guessing who might end up in his rhetorical crosshairs next, but even a seasoned showman like Trump knows that words have weight. Violent language isn't just an expression of frustration, it shapes public perception and political culture. In this case, Trump's escalation raises an uncomfortable question: what happens when political discourse sounds like a duel? The stakes are high for some. The stakes are about protecting democracy itself. For others, it's about pushing back against what they see as an overreach by those like Cheney. Yet Cheney, with her declaration of Trump as a would-be dictator, may have a point. After all, one of the first steps to undermining a free society is demonizing those who disagree. This latest chapter in American politics isn't just about Trump versus Cheney, it's about a country grappling with what kind of leadership it really wants. As we brace ourselves for another round of this political showdown, like it's clear that the game has changed and not necessarily for the better. After all, in a democracy, shouldn't opponents be on opposite sides of a debate stage, not in each other's gun sits? So as Trump hits the trail with Tucker Carlson, Cheney stands firm in her opposition and Harris courts the middle ground. We're left to wonder, when do we reach the point where the rhetoric finally cools? If words alone are weapons, one hopes they're enough to settle the fight before anyone takes aim with anything more.
Hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around the end, drop a blue heart in this comment. And until next time, I will see you soon.